Hello, Yasin. How are you doing? How is everyone? Hey, you day, Kiran. How are you doing? Today we're going to be doing some UI stuff and motion graphics and see how things go. And so I was on ArtStation and I saw this piece here from Evgen Rodin. Okay, let me give this a like. Okay, what is this? My account should be complete, but I'll complete that later. So, yo, you help me every time with my projects. Thank you so much. That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. Hello, Dyson Store. How you doing? Glad to see you back. Hey, Rafael Rogos. How are you doing? Rizo AR, how are you doing? I'm glad to see people are coming back. So yeah, today we're going to be attempting to do something like this. I rarely see motion graphics tutorials, so today I want to attempt to do something like this and see how everything goes. And hello, Ice. Great to know you're great. So yeah. We can also try and look at some HUD designs and see. And I've been watching this Iron Man HUD scenes and just also going to try and get some ideas from that. But mostly what we are going to be looking at as reference is this image here. Hello, One. Hello, everyone. Use capital letters instead of small letters on your video titles. Why is that? Is there any advantage to that, you did? Hello, Apocalypse. How are you? How is everything? So is there any good reason to use capital letters? Because I don't know. Most people don't use capital letters. Can't see. Okay, so let's see how we can do something like this. And I think the best way to approach something like this is creating assets and then reusing them a lot. Good to know. The Apocalypse. Is the stream going to be uploaded to the YouTube channel later? Yes, all my streams are uploaded. Yeah, so I think the best way to approach this is to compartment. It's kind of make them build them as modules that we can reuse in different areas. And I think one of the difficulties we might get is unmating digits or unmating numbers to change. But I think for that, because Blender doesn't have a direct way to do that, we are going to use some programming, some basic programming. It's not that complicated. It shouldn't be that complicated to do. So it's called compartmentalizing, I think, yeah. So we're just going to build a few models and see how to use them. I'm from Uganda, that's in East Africa. So yeah, let's get started. I think let's begin by let me show you how we're going to set up this project so that it's very easy for us to work with. And I'm going to be working mostly in top view, but I'm going to need the camera to face the scene in the same angle like this. Can you also do a live stream for beginners, please? Yeah, I will do something like that, I guess. It shouldn't be a problem. But this is also I'm also doing a step-by-step video, so I should be okay for beginners. And just so we can speed up, we're going to be using cycles for this. Sorry, it's Eevee, non-cycles. We're going to be using Eevee for this. Let's begin and see. This is going to be high reflective surface, black. I'm going to first remove this light. Also turn the world off, so that we can set up a few things. Like the screen to be a little bit reflective, so and let me also turn on screen space reflections. I think that's what we're going to need most, and maybe bloom. Let's see if we add a plane with a reflective, with an emissive material, shader emission. I want to see if it will be reflected by this. What do you do apart from YouTube? You mean outside YouTube? I do sometimes I do programming and web design. So I spend at least 2 hours a day on YouTube and Blender, and then the rest of the time I do other things. So I'm trying to see if I can get this to reflect into the surface. Now that should give us a nice start. Okay, this will be one. Okay, so it does reflect it, but I see how it's fading out. So let's see if we can, if we add a light reflection. Because you see, when you're creating this kind of things, reflections are very important. But before we do that, let's set up a few other things. So how should we approach this? I guess we can start with one of these rings, and for that I'm just going to create a curve. I should have quite a lot of resolution. So, and just so I have control over the brightness, I'm going to use an emissive material. We're going to use a lot of emissive materials. And I think we can lose the bloom, as it's going to get in the way quite a bit. So how can I learn Blender? By, I guess, watching tutorials, because that's how I learned. And I'm also going to increase my viewport samples so that we have some nice resolution to work with. And let's have a surface. Turn on random colors. Bring this down a bit. Okay, so we want somewhat a reflective surface for this, like a screen for this. So I'm just going to use a new material. We can use. Do you do job in Blender? Yeah, I've done a few jobs in Blender, but because now I'm handling a lot of YouTube stuff, I am no longer taking on such jobs because it would take a lot of time. So I want to create a kind of a gradient from, as you can, if you look at this closely, we have a blue gradient coming from this side to this side. Here is a bit darker blue, and here is a bit lighter blue. So that's what I want to achieve, and I'm going to achieve that using a car ramp. So we have a blue like that, and then a darker blue. We can use the emission shader and bring down the power just a little bit like that. And if you want to have, hello Jafar, Sadiq, how are you doing? Good to see you here. And if we want to have some kind of a glass effect, you can also use another gradient. I'm just going to duplicate this around, but this time instead of using a linear gradient, we can use a spherical gradient, and I'm also going to use texture coordinate mapping to move this, maybe scale it down reposition it. Yeah, I think somewhere like that. And this one, I want it to have really high contrast, like that. This is going to be maybe white, like that. And what I'm going to do is blend it with this here. So I can get this and this, and use something like a screen, I think. Yeah, screen. Like that. And I can also control how bright that reflection is by adding another mix node here. And this making this one dark, and just so you can see I get that nice reflection. It's a fake reflection. And let me just turn on under display, just add a pass out so that I have control over, I can see how things look in the screen. So this is our screen, and I want to be able to dictate where this is going. So can have that like that. And let's see what else can we do. We can duplicate this. I'll create that inner circle. Maybe this one is a bit wider. But I want it. I don't want it to be that to be too opaque. So what I can do, I'm going to use a different material for this. Hello, Bayak of Siwa. How are you doing? How was your day? And how is everyone's day? I know a lot of you might not want to chat, but can you type a 1 in chat, just so I know you're here. Okay, so we're going to create a lot of variations in color, and I also want this energy to be a little bit down. And so we're going to start creating, hello, Mujia Films, hello, Hilda Felipe. You guys are awesome. Let me get my outliner, because we're going to use the outliner a lot, because we want to create different modules. So, for example, if I want to say, you see these loading bars? Let me show you how I can create one and then reuse them. So I'm going to have something like this, maybe do a round edge like that. And this could have an array, or instead we can just duplicate it directly like this. I want to show you an easier way to kind of reuse some of the assets we have made. And I'm just going to create another one here. I'll scale this, grab it, and also round off the corners just a bit, then insert. So I have a piece like that, and maybe duplicate this, and this is going to be a shorter bar like that, and then this can have more bars. So we have something like this, and you can group this into a new collection, call this bars. And now I just have to come in here and add a collection instance called bars. And you can see I can scale it down. Just make sure that it's above the surface. So if you want this pivot point to be closer to the center, you just have to move this to the center. Maybe let me scale this even down a bit, and I just disable this. So now I have this bar that I can add somewhere like here, and maybe even add it, I don't know, another part, another one of it here. And I can always go back to these. I can even duplicate another one, maybe this time rotate it 190 degrees and maybe scale it up a bit like that. You can see how I'm easily starting to populate the scene. Yesterday DM you on Insta, bro. You should have used this code because I rarely use Instagram, but I'll check it out and see. How tough is Blender to learn? That depends on you, man. How much time you put in to learn it. So let's give this some color. I'm just going to give this an emissive material. Just select everything and have it link. And you can see it has been updated everywhere. So I can make any changes. And if I want to add animations to this, for example, let's see, what kind of animation can we do here? Actually, this should have been an array. It would make it much easier to control. So I can have this as an array, and so that I can easily animate the array. So now you can see all of them are updating at the same time. So I can do a quick animation of the count factor for this, and then just have it go somewhere like that. Now let me change the colors a bit here, maybe bring the brightness a bit down, give it a little tint of blue. So now I should have this animated like that. And let me first isolate just this collection. And I don't remember how to isolate this, but I can also just add. Hello there, Felipe. When you mentioned that you no longer do other jobs related to Blender because YouTube, what type of work were you referring to? Is it animated advertising? I know I used to, because it's not very specific, so I would just get jobs related to 3D animation. So anything I could get, anything that could get me, because here where I live, a lot of people know me as the VFX guy, so they usually have me help them with anything related to VFX. So that kind of work I stopped doing, and I also would get some work off the internet, but yeah, I stopped doing any of that. Actually, let's add a letter here. Yeah, it would help if you could get some nice sci-fi fonts. So I already downloaded some here, and we're going to use so I can use let's say 05. Have it there, and you can see it's updating everywhere we have this, and I can also use the same material. And I'm also going to add in some small text here. This is the way. Okay, let me just do some asset 0441 and just see counter. Let's do a counter. Just write some sci-fi looking stuff. Let's say a combinations like something like this, and you can see how it comes out there. And we can now we have now that we have this, let me first disable it. We'll try to animate this value so that it changes accordingly. I can also have, let's see, I can do something like, let me give this the same emissive material. I can have something like this. Just bring it up a little bit. And I want, when this moves, I want this also to move. And I want this to be moving according to, let's see, what should we, let me see how this guy is doing it. I can see if I have this attached. Let me see. Let me use a curve, but should be a vector. Give it a bevel, just a thin bevel. Make sure it's using the same material as everything else, so that is visible. And this lines really look great for something like this. So let's see. Just bring. Why do you create an object from game's example, battlefield, a weapon, or why don't you create an object from game's example? I could do that. Maybe in another stream. I think we should start working on animations, and same with animations. Same like these bars. We can create a ring collection. So I'm just going to start. Let me just duplicate this circle here. It's going to have all the animation, and just so we can see that it's really being animated, I'm just going to add in some extra details here. First, round off these corners a bit. Something like this. And we're going to have this rotate, kind of like oscillate. So I'm just going to add in some animations here. So if we play back, it goes like that. I want it then to come back like that. Actually, we don't really have to do this by hand. We can use a noise modifier on the Z rotation. I just get rid of all of these other keys. So if you have that, we can hit in, turn on modifiers, and add a noise modifier. We get something like that. You can see it's very jagged. Hey Pain, how are you doing? Mike of Siwa, love your work. Thanks. I'll be waiting. Sure. We can scale the noise so that we have something that oscillates like that. And if we want the values to go a little bit higher than that, we can increase the strength. Then we get something that's like that. And as we are working on this, let me first center it. Let me actually turn off the keys. Center it like that. But I want this to be in a ring collection. I'm going to call it ring 1. And let me hide it for a second. Let me isolate this for a second. Actually, not. Wait. You completed yesterday's space station and seen you are working on. Yes, I did. Actually, let me first show you, for anyone who missed yesterday's live stream, this is what we did. Where is the sci-fi? But it's a bit heavy on my machine, so I also have, I made the time lapse, so let me just get that because I think my computer can handle it as long as I don't have any lights turned on. I should be able to handle it. Let me get the work. Let me show you what we did in the yesterday's live stream. So if I do a walk navigation here, and this fits the same thing. You can see how I think it came out nice, looking nice. So this is what we created yesterday. Thank you, Ivan, for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this is what we did. I want to turn on the lights so that you see how everything looks, but I'm not sure if my PC will handle it. So this is how it looks with lights and everything. Yeah, it's a bit heavy because my computer is a potato. So anyway, that's it for that. So I want to see where I can add these rings. So since I have it under a new collection, I can create an instance of it, scale it down, and start moving it in the different places. I can also just have it be up here, parented to this, Control P to object. So whenever this moves, that should also move. That looks amazing. Did you make everything on stream? Yeah, I did. Everything from start to finish. And there is, you can go and watch the stream. Is all done within, I think it was 2 hours. Yeah, it was a 2-hour stream. We can also, since we already have this, we can also duplicate this ring and let's say put it somewhere else. Maybe. And now you can see that they all play, but we can make them more detailed by adding in more features. For example, I can duplicate this again, scale it up or scale it down, doesn't matter. Then and I'm going to use a spin tool to create more of these arrows. So I'm just going to spin them around like that and make sure this is duplicate. Hello, Elias. How are you doing? Yeah, so we have something like that. But these look a bit too large, so I'm just going to select all of them using Shift G by area and then in video origins so that I can scale them, something like that. And now we have that. But this I want to be offset, and maybe we could change the material for this a bit. I'm just going to duplicate this material. And do you make a project every day? Yeah, that's what I try to do. And I put them up on Patreon, on my Patreon page if you want to get them. I'm going to, so you see we have the same animation. Now to make it look a bit different, I'm just going to, there should be a seed, because we're using noise, I think, we can play with the phase. And that should, it should give us a different kind of animation. I also want this to be a little bit thinner. So, and maybe play with the strength or the offset just a bit. Strength, so that there's kind of a little bit of delay. Maybe play with the scale so that this looks a bit different. And we can even add more. Thank you guys for liking. If you're just getting here, it would be amazing if you left a like as well. So it helps the channel grow and also gets the stream out there to more people. So we can also add another text inside here, another sci-fi text. Let's get a nice font. I think we can reuse the same font we are using. Let's try this. Actually, that's not good. Let's try. It's the same font. Let me just get whatever we had here. Just use this as 01. Maybe have it somewhere like that. And so here we're just designing things and making sure, trying to see if we can get them to look nice. Also just, I don't know, let me see if I split this a few times, maybe make this a bit thinner and just, I'm going to apply the subdivision so that I can delete parts of this. So we have something. Finally, a tutorial I've been waiting for. Thanks. Glad. Yeah, I'm glad I read your mind. And so the problem here is that Blender doesn't really have a way to animate this kind of text. But if you know some basic programming, it shouldn't be that hard. And I don't remember the code itself by head, but I think there is a. Is it if you type in BPY? Let's see. Frame handler. Is it a frame change? There is this handler that lets you run a function every frame. So it makes it easy to kind of to animate the text. So just this function here can make it easy for you to. So we're going to do a little bit of programming. If you're new to programming, this shouldn't be a big problem because I'll also have the code available for free that I use here because it's going to be very, very basic. So I don't know, let's split. This is some of the limitations of Blender, I think, and I think there should be a way to do this without programming. But so I'm just going to create a new script and paste in this code and run it and see if it will work. So what it's doing is on every frame change, so every frame, it runs whatever code is in here, and what we have here is just printing frame change and then the current frame. So if I go to Window Console, you can see it's already working because it's every time I change a frame, it prints a frame change. So the way we can use this is that if you want to change the text here, all we have to do is get a reference to this object. Say for this we can do bpy.data.objects, and this object is called text, but I'm going to rename it to call it anim1. So I can search for all any objects in my scene called anim1. Get its, let me see, actually forget the code, but you can access the code that you want to run in the Python console. So if I look for bpy.data.objects, so I'm just trying to get a reference for this object, and I know I named it anim1. So there is, I think it has an attribute called, let me see, what attribute are we looking for? I think it's body. Let's see. Hello, KM33. Okay, I don't remember the exact code, so let me just do a quick Google search, and I can do how to get a BPY, how to get a text object text. Okay, so it's object data body. So it would be under data body, and then is it text? Yeah, so it's so this is the code you would need to get the text that is here, and then all I have to do is kind of replace it here, and then set it to scene, current frame, or whatever I want. So if you don't know what I'm doing here, I'll just leave a code for you. I'll just share the code with you later, but let's make sure that this is actually the code that is supposed to run. Okay, so it seems we are changing a string to, I need to make this turn this into a string before I run the code. So let me see if we still have an issue. Expected a string type, not int. Okay, so let me see how to convert a string. Python int to string. I think I was doing it right, but this is it. I just need to run this again. Yeah, so you can see now that works. So you can see, if you're new to programming, it's not that difficult, but you can see we just use a few lines to get this to work. And so I can scale this in and maybe add another text here that says something like, so this would be whatever degrees are here, something like that. And because I'm putting all this data into the ring collection, it should update for every object I have. So let me first bring this back, hide this ring. This 21 should also be part of the ring. This 21 should be part of the ring. So now you can see everywhere I have this ring object, that animation is running. You can see something like that. Now, to make this more interesting, we can make it a little bit three dimensions by adding in some three-dimension objects. So I'm going to use a sphere. So this is going to be like a kind of a hologram projection. Do you think Python is important to know for this kind of motion graphics in Blender? It's important when you want to kind of have text animated, because that's not a feature Blender has right now. So you'd have to do, but for everything else, you don't really need to do that. And there are some ways to animate text without Python, but it's going to be, actually, I don't think there is a way, unless you have this imported in as a texture, an image sequence. But if you want to do it directly like this, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So with that, I can actually just also reuse this ring instance. Just grab it. Let's see. Where should I want to see how it looks if we have it somewhere like that. Yeah, it would take forever. So if you, I think I had created an add-on that does this, and it was available for free. I don't remember where I had it. By the way, what are your PC specs? So let me just show you. I have, this is my CPU. It's an i5, 3 gigahertz, 8 GB of RAM, and a 1060, 3 GB. How to learn Python for Blender, Python for making art in Blender. I think, so how many of you are interested in learning Python? Maybe I can do a live stream about Python programming for you guys. So this is ring 1. I'm also going to create another ring. But before we do that, I wanted to do kind of a 3D projection here using this sphere. So Finn, you want to learn? Okay, I'll try to do that if there is enough interest. So it is very useful for Houdini, yeah. And most 3D applications are adapting a programming language, including programming languages into their how's it called? Into their workflow. So it's important to learn it. My dude, good to see you. Dravid, good to see you again as well. Let's go. Make that, please. I will try to. So we want to make some kind of earth projection. So let's do that and see. There is a wireframe. Node that lets you kind of creates you can use it to create a wireframe of your mesh. But the issue with this is that it also adds in these triangles, which I do not, which I don't really care for. And I'm not really sure of any other. Let's see if they will look good. So if you have something like this, what you could do is all 3D software using Python or just Houdini and Blender is After Effects using Python. I think After Effects uses something different, and I think Cinema 4D uses something called Coffee. I don't really remember, but most of them are using Python, I think. Or at least they usually have their own version, their script, internal script. I think After Effects uses something based off C++. I don't know. So we want to have this. We can use a shader, transparent shader. I mix that with an emissions shader, so like this, and use this as a mask. And since we are using Eevee, we need to go to the material settings and turn on alpha blend so that we can see the insides of the grid, and maybe turn off shadows. So now this looks okay, but it's lacking detail. So what I can do is we can use a Fresnel. So if I go to input, we have a Fresnel, and then also have a layer weight, which basically does the same thing, but layer weight gives you much more control since you have the Fresnel, and also facing that gives you that kind of gradient or mask. I just want to have the edges glow a bit, and I want this mask to only appear mostly at the edges. So I'm going to use a mixed RGB node, and use the facing here, and then this here, the frame, and I think we can use a color dodge. Let's try this the other way around. Let me add a math node here. Excellent project. Please, more motion graphics using Blender in future tutorial, and of course simple Python introduction to mock graph would be awesome. I'll try to do that. Let me see what I want to create. A mask. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? Yeah. Okay, you see, we want this glow here to kind of be used as a mask for this. So let's try color burn, or we can try multiply. If you look closely, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it is there. Let me change maybe the pixel size here. You can see we have a nice mesh around there. I have a request. Could you turn on screen? Yeah, they should have been on, and I turned them on, but I'm not sure why they're not showing. Screencast, so I can see what shortcuts you do. Don't mind if it is bothering you. No, I actually intended to have them on. I'm not sure why they were not showing. So, and so this is going to be used as we can add a color ramp. So okay, Blender just crashed. I'm not sure if I was saving. Let me see how much I had saved. This is the previous project. UI design. Okay, so yeah, I was saving. Anastasia, yeah, you expect something like that. That's why you see me saving quite a lot of times. Let me turn on the screen keys, and then let's go back to this. Let's add our color ramp. Okay, so it seems that Blender doesn't really want me to add a color ramp, but there are other ways to colorize this. So if Blender is crashing, if we can't handle it, if it handles a lot of things, this is very light for it. So, but if it doesn't want to do that, let me just use a color mix, a color, yeah, and it should give me a nice color like that. It happens every time for you. That's a bug, I think. I think I'll try to report it after here. So we're going to use this as the color for the emission, and let's try a 10. And this is also going to be used as the factor. Now we are not seeing anything because I think we need to. Yeah, I see now what we have. And now for added effect, let me just have this on. You can see how that looks. Thank you for being nice and responsive. I don't know how to answer that, but it's not expected. But everyone has to be nice, I think. And the reason I'm doing a live stream is so that I can interact with you. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that I'm interactive. So we can create our grid, and inside here I want to also have to integrate a map of the earth. So Shift D, scale it in a bit like that. How did you learn Blender? I learned it by watching tutorials the same way you're doing right now. So I can have an earth here, and to do the earth I'm just going to add a texture, image texture, and find a map. If I go to my resources, I think I have something that looks like a map. Okay, this is nice, but I'm not sure. It looks also a little bit too detailed for what I want, but let's see. Where is that? I can get it. So this is how everything looks. Let me just, oh God. Okay, this is the fourth time Blender is crashing. I'm not sure why it is. Let me make sure that there is nothing in the background that is using. Okay, everything here seems normal, so I'm not sure why Blender is crashing quite a lot. I want to do a UV map projection as a cylindrical projection. Then let's get other image again. When did I start? I started around Blender 2.47. That's around 2010, I think. 2010, 2008. I think around 2008. But I was off and on, so it wasn't consistent. Let's bring back. Yeah, 61 likes. That's amazing. Thank you. But if you haven't liked or subscribed, it would be amazing if you did. Okay, we want to have the earth in there. Sit under details. Yeah, this here. So this is what we have. I think I can just use object projection instead of. So I have something like this. Let's see sphere projection. But I don't want to see the back face. Okay, this is quite low resolution, which is not going to work very well for what we want. So let me go under my downloads. I think I have a desktop, new folder. Let me try getting something different. That is going to be. I wanted to ask, do game studios that use 3ds Max and Maya some sort of add-ons like Maya use some sort of add-ons like we use in Blender, for example, kit ops or decom? Definitely. Yes, it's sometimes you want to do a specific thing that the application doesn't do very well. Most of these companies create their own tools, their own add-ons, and that's why you see some of them staying away from Blender, because Blender's terms and conditions require you to share the source code of whatever tools or add-ons you create within the application. So, and because this is kind of proprietary software, so this is. They create these add-ons for their company. They put in their money, and they don't like sharing those add-ons. That's why they stay away from Blender, because Blender would require them to share what are the add-ons they have created. So let's see. So if you're wondering why some of these studios don't just jump onto Blender, that's one good reason, because Blender requires companies to share and these companies use a lot of in-house add-ons, and more than you think. So if that becomes a big requirement, some of them just decide to stay away. So see, I want to get this mask. Mix it. Let's see, color. Mix it with the earth and see what I get. So we have mix it with the alpha of this. Yes, that makes sense. Will this concept be available as a video after? Yes, it will be. It will be. So we have the earth, which I think already looks good. I can actually leave it like this, but okay, I'm really getting tired of these crashes. So what I'm going to do, this version is crashing a lot. Thank you for subscribing. That's Abiaz Nabel Fowles. Thank you for subscribing. Anyone who hasn't subscribed yet, that would be amazing if you subscribe. So this version of Blender is crashing a lot, but as we are working, I'm going to try and download a new version. .org. Hopefully that won't be crashing a lot. Okay. As that downloads, let's continue working with this. And I was trying to mask this, and I want parts of this grid to kind of be cut into this a bit. So I think that makes I think that makes sense. Themselves or outsource them. Yeah, they usually have a team of developers at hand to do kind of in-house add-ons. So studios get custom add-ons created for them by Maya and 3ds Max for specific productions. I don't think they ask Maya, but they usually have their own developers that do that. They have I think they're called technical directors that create any tools that are lacking that they need. And sometimes you see people creating demos. You see YouTube demos of in-house production tools that they use on specific movies. I think ILM has, I don't remember what ILM has. For example, you can see, ILM, which is the studio of shooting The Mandalorian, has that screen rig where they record everything live, but they use it in conjunction with Unreal Engine. So, though Unreal Engine provided most of the software, but they also have their own inbuilt system to go with whatever they have. So I think I need a power math node here to make this more pronounced. Let's see, this is, I think this is okay. So let's just feed this or blend it in here. Yeah. So the combination of everything is this. Actually, this shouldn't have the earth. It should just be this grid. Like that. And okay, it seems that these are using two materials, which I don't want. Using the same materials. So this should have we have the earth, Why is this not showing? I'm guessing C++ or C Sharp. A lot of I think they use a lot of Python. Python is one of the most popular programming languages, I think. Let's see. So we have this. Okay, this has to be like that. And then this, and then everything on top. How much hours do you use Blender in a day? It's usually about 2 hours. So after I'm done with this live stream, I won't be touching Blender. I'll be doing other things. Okay, maybe I'll be touching Blender, but I won't be doing modeling. I'm going to be working on some add-on that there's an add-on I'm working on right now, so I'll be doing that. So it's I'll be still using Blender, I guess. I want this to have a rotation, like a nice. So vector. And this grid has to also be moving. And maybe a little bit okay. I think we can start working on other elements that we have in the scene here. Let's add something like that. So to do that, I'm just going to use a plane. I just give it the same material that we had. And let's see. I'm debating on how to approach this, either to use curves or planes. Each has its own issues, but I think curves are going to be better for this. So actually I can just add in a slight animation into this, and also just to make things look much better, I'm also going to add in some camera depth of field. Just let me see, show limits. So my depth of field starts here. Let me see, focus distance. Okay, I want to show limits. So our focus is going to be at around, where is this? There. Just want this to be something like one. I want a very shallow depth of field so that we can have the same effect that they have here. And I think you can just do a plane. I'm going to use the same material that I have for these other things. But this is going to use, I think, object mapping. This material should have should be using object mapping instead of generated so that we can control this a little bit better. Just push this gradient back a bit, maybe give it a slight rotation, and make it have the same these colors, so make it a little bit lighter. So this can be around here. Just going to scale it up a bit. You are the best. Thank you, Pandey. Don't take. It's so hard to consistently learn Blender 3D. I feel stuck, or I didn't have any progress. You'll get there. You get there. Everyone starts like that, and sometimes you just not feeling it, but. Sometimes when you feel like you're not progressing, that's usually when you're actually progressing. So don't worry too much about it. So this here, we can also, we can have two of these. Actually, before we do that, let's see, is there a better way to handle this? I want to have this curve, so I can start. Let me first apply the scale. I can Control B, bevel this, and then we can create a nice arc like that. Then use this to make it curved like that. Thank you, Galatas, for subscribing. Really appreciate it. Now we can insert this, so we have something like that. To make the outline, what we can do is we can just, let me see, we can create another second material, actually use the same material, just make sure that it's a different instance, and I change the strength of this to something like 1, and make sure that it's assigned to the second material. This assigned to that, and you see we get that nice highlight. And, now the issue here is making edits here is going to be a little bit difficult, because actually maybe not. Let's see if I just do this, you can get that. If I want this to be kind of hexy, can just reduce, bevel this, and maybe round these edges off a bit. This time should be 0.5. So let's look at what we have done so far. Yes. So we have something like that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give this some bit of transparency, because you can see inside here, it looks like this has objects under it. So what I'm going to do is use a principal shader here, shader principal. And I'm going to use some transparency. Let's see if we use transmission, how that would look. Make this very, very reflective. Since we don't really have anything to reflect, it's not going to really matter a lot. Can also make this as the emission. So we have some emission, some light. And I want this to be transparent. Maybe give this some bit of roughness. Transparent, like that. So that, let's first give this an alpha blend, no shadows. Let's increase the transparency a bit, something like that. Now, what I can do is get this, what is it called? I have this instance, grid instance, and have it go under there. And if we have a really shallow depth of field, I think we can make it, let's see, 0.5, 0.3. I want it to look like we have multiple layers below this. And actually, not just below it, we can make a few extra layers for this, and I should make things look much better. I think the depth of field is a bit high. And while we're at it, we can also add in some lights, because right now we have been using emissive materials only. And I think if you do something like that, which engine is good, Unity or Unreal Engine? So I know how to use Unreal Engine, so my opinion is going to be a little bit biased. So yeah, what's better, 2.8 or 2.9? The latest version is usually much better. And there have been a lot of improvements in 2.9, so yes, definitely 2.9. Let's see. My depth of field is still, actually, let's, we need to adjust it to compensate for the camera movement. Maybe, let me also change this to something like a 30. There are a few other things we could do. So, since we have created this script, we can make a few changes to it. So, for example, I can do another function here. I'll call this change text, and it will take in another attribute called object, obj, and so that we can reuse it here. Object name, instead of object, let's use object name. So I want to make sure that I want to have multiple texts that animates. So I'm just going to remember this script is going to be available for free. So don't worry too much about it if you don't know how to use Python. And with this, I want to add a % after the. So I want this to be something like. So it's then add plus. I think I would do a Python tutorial series for beginners who want to get into Python with Blender, because there are a lot of things you can't really do without programming in, including this here. So we want another text, so let's create another. Let me just call this, let me actually just create a new text. I'll call this, where is my object data? I'll call this %. And what it's going to do, on every frame, we want to change the percentage here. We want to have a percentage up here. And maybe let's have this into its own collection called percentage. So when you started Blender, did you feel like you wanted to quit? Actually, I never felt like I wanted to quit, because I was learning it. It was just fun. I was just having fun with it. I wasn't learning it for a job. I wasn't learning it and I was young back then. I didn't have to worry too much about everything like now. So I was mostly learning it as a fun thing to know. and it ended up working out nicely. So I want on every frame to change this object. So I want to change, let me see if I can append another handler here, or can I do multiple ones? This is change text, can I do multiple ones like that? And this, okay, this should take in a scene. Let me see. How old are you? 28, I think. Yeah, I think. So I'm a bit older. So let's see. Actually, this is not supposed to be there. This is supposed to be at the center there, so that this can be easily moved. So I want this to be the percentage. Let's see if we are getting some errors with the script, because I think this handler only takes one argument. So let's see if we have two lines, one taking, if we can call this handler twice and play. We might be getting, I'm half your age, so you have a lot of time. Invalid key must be a string and not an integer. Invalid key must be a string, not an integer. I'm not sure which error this is. Line 8. Must be integer, not 9. Oh, so let's have this somewhere here. So I want to use Python to have a percentage thing like this. So you see, this is what I'm trying to do here, but there are a few things I need to remember. So how do you pass a function? Let me see. BPY. How? So you see, programming is usually mostly asking question from Google. So how to pass an attribute into a handler. Let me see if that's yeah. Let me see. Okay, no one has answered this, so this is going to be problematic. Let me see. You know what? Let's first ignore that. Actually, instead of doing that, let's just because I wanted to make it simple for me by just calling the function and passing an attribute without creating new functions every time. But yeah, for the sake of time, I'm just going to cheat and just load the name directly in like we did before. So I'm just going to do, where is this object? So here, just pass it in directly like that, and that should make it so that this text also changes as we expected it to change. I can figure out how to pass the attribute later, but this is just a quick way to make things work. And I can go back to this object or this collection and design it a little bit better. Maybe even get rid of these. Actually, those are being added by the script here. So what I can do is just make them, because I want them to be as thin as you see them there. And the ones that the font provides, Actually, I also want to change the font of this to something more sci-fi. Yeah, something like that. I want to create of so these two should also be in the percent collection, so that need a percent here plus percent. So if we look closely, you can see that we have that there. Now we just have to give them the material that is required for give that material. This material. So now what I can do is make this percentage move based on the rotation that you see this thing going in, so that this percentage can go up and down, oscillate in the same manner that everything else here is oscillating. But that would be kind of too Python for what I want this kind of tutorial to be. So let's just concentrate on making this thing look a bit better, look more, better. Give this some color. Now I also like these details, small details that are in here, so I can do those. These are simply, actually, I like how this cube looks. So let's see if I add it in here. Now before we do that, we also have these already. This here, so we can have that in. Maybe let me move my camera so that is. This is starting to look actually better. And so I want it to look like that. Now let me see how this looks in. Let me first turn off depth of field for a second. Let me see how this looks in cycles. Yeah, not bad. Actually, it looks exactly the same as Eevee. So we have these numbers already, so we might as well use them. I can also borrow this face here and use it to create extra detail. Just going to give it a different material. Let's play with it a bit to get something interesting. And I'm just going to select make it a bit rounded. Make these also a bit rounded like that. And can just do something like this. And I think this line is a bit too thick, so I'm just going to make it a little bit thin to have something like that. And I want these things here, they look kind of nice, so I'm just going to add them as well. those boxes here, they have rounded edges, so I'm also going to add some rounded edges like that. New material. Yeah, I'm going to make it less powerful, something like that. Use an array, not a bevel, an array duplicate this. Oh, and actually I can do something like this, then have another array, this time down, then apply to geometry. And now what I can do is I can randomize the colors just a bit. By selecting some of these faces, or what we can do is select everything, and under select we can do a select random, change this to deselect so that we have some random patterns, and then after we have that selection we can go to vertex paint and then paint those a different color. So let's go in here and paint them what is it, set colors. Actually it should have the face select on and then set colors, so we have a mask like that, which we can use in here. So I'm just going to duplicate this material and bring in the vertex colors that we have just created, and you can see we have that mask. More viewers, great, thank you. So if you just new here, could you say hi? It would be amazing. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those. So we want to use this mask to be our color. So just have this as a factor, and then so now I can have this looking a bit brighter and maybe a bit the others a bit darker like that. Oh, they can be the same color, but this just be set to multiply. Then we can play with the factor, and this. So it's very hard to control how much light we want. So what I'm going to do is add a shader, a transparent shader. Just mix those and use, instead of having this setup, I'll just use this as the factor. And the material, we'll need to set this to alpha blend. Hello, Aravi. Thank you, Aravindos. Thank you for subscribing. And so we can have something like that, but I need a way to control the transparency. So I'm just going to get this, set this to black, and then I can play with this. So this gives me an easier way to control everything like that. So I have these grids now. I can just choose which ones to keep and which ones to get rid of. So anything that's kind of crossing that line is going to go. Same, maybe get rid of these as well. Maybe make this a bit brighter like that. Now let's continue adding in some text. Text. Give it a color. Let's call this section there. I'm going to create a variation of these bars. So you can see we have this. So I can duplicate this collection, and let me first get these bars here. And I'm going to change some of them, give them some color as well. So let's get this. Going to apply the array here. Just going to copy, just directly rip this guy's design. So can do, this is going to be an emission shader, and it's going to have be red just like his, and some of them are going to be, it's actually a good idea to start naming these so that I can reuse them. And this is blue, bluish, and it's also just using an emissive shader. And then we can assign it to this. So we have something like that. Now we can also get the bluish color again. Just I can change this to something like A5. Maybe the wording doesn't really matter because, yeah. And this can also just use the bluish material, and this can use the red. And these lines here can use the bluish material, I think. And since we have this as a collection, I can turn it off and add it somewhere here. So instances, bars 2. Let's bring it up. Okay, maybe that red is a bit too heavy. So let's go back to rings 001. Find that red color, have it somewhere like there, and this bluish material also looks a bit too bright, and it's supposed to be bluish and on to, so something like that. come on, I think all people will feel like quitting when things get hard and everything is hard in the beginning. Just start with very small projects and work your way up. Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice. Don't start with something that will overwhelm you. Just start simple. And we also have these here. And I think I can find an easier way to animate them. So right now, our project has about two things that are animated. Thank you, Patarapum. Thank you for subscribing. So we only have a few things that are animated here. So let's start adding in a little bit more. I'm just going to scale this up. Now let's see if I duplicate this, and because I want to have some kind of 3D element to our grid. Okay. You can even vary. You see, right now everything is rotating at the same position, which is okay, but you can vary this by just rotating them directly, and you get some nice offsets. But I want this to be smaller, maybe somewhere here. And for added effect, I can also just add in a circle around there. Give it the bluish material. Have it just a little bit up. We have something like that. And thank you, Ali Kaheri, for subscribing. Really appreciate it. And we can also get this earth, which should be in its own collection. So I'm going to get these two here and set them, give them a sphere earth collection, so that I can reuse them in other places. So I can have this here, instance earth, going to scale it down, and maybe have it float like that. And we can have like a few of these to create some kind of halo effect. But again, we need these offset. This should be at the center. Now you see what we have so far. So I don't like how this is duplicated twice, so I'm just going to get rid of one of these. Now I want to animate these kind of things here, and there's a simple way to do that, I think. If we start with a mesh, I'll also give it a bluish material that we already have. It needs to be a triangle like this. So we have something like that. I want it to kind of have the same spot as that. So if we have a circle, just scale it down. This is going to be its own object. Set origin to geometry. Have it up there. Give it a more brighter material, so bluish but brighter. And what I can do is select this vertex and then this. Is it the other way around? Yeah, so I can add a hook. So if I select this edge and then I think control select, is it control select? Let's see. Actually, it's non-control select. I think if you select this and then this, then actually, let's just do this. Select the edge, add a hook. That means that if I select this hook, I can move this around And then I can have this parented to this hook, so that when this moves, both of these move. And I can do the same for this side. Control H to add a hook, that should move this. Do the same here, Control H, add a hook, that should move this. And I'm just going to duplicate these points like that. Then I can parent this to this, Control P, select this, parent to this, Control P. And now if I move these, actually let me just first change the shape of these empties because they're confusing me right now. So if I go to the empty, I can scale them down a bit, copy to selected, copy to selected, and change them maybe to spheres or cubes like this, so that I can easily select them. So now when I select this,